So, what we're going to do right now is we're going to practice a skill about reading nonfiction text. Now, we have mostly read fiction this year, and so nonfiction might seem kind of new and scary, but no worries. We're going to be practicing this a lot in the couple months before STAR and then in our STAR unit. So we should get a lot of practice with nonfiction. So what does Ms. Watson mean by nonfiction? So nonfiction is informational writing, right? So this is writing about history, writing about science, writing about somebody's life in the form of a biography, okay? So when we're reading nonfiction, it's writing about things that actually happened, things in life. An author is not just making up a story, okay? So when we read nonfiction, we want to first know how to take notes, right? We want to know how to annotate a passage to know what's happening in nonfiction, because nonfiction can be just a lot of information at once sometimes. So when we read nonfiction, we want to first just read the text and we want to take notes on new information as we go. Then we want to ask ourselves, what's this text mostly about? And jot our thoughts. Then we want to ask, what did the author really want me to take away from this? And jot our thoughts. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of practice this with a text that we're going to be reading anyways for our Draw It. And I'm going to do like the first paragraph, but then I want you to do the second paragraph, okay? So let's see if I can start this. All right, sorry, y'all. Nearpod threw me for a loop there. All right, so if I'm looking at my steps, right, I want to first read the text, taking notes on new information as I go. So remember, I'm only modeling this with the first paragraph. All right, so it says, during the Victorian period, men and women's roles became more sharply defined than at any time in history. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and take a note here. And my note is going to be more clear gender roles. Okay. Because I know they're sharply defined right now more than they have ever been. Okay. In earlier centuries, it had been unusual for women to work alongside husbands and brothers. As the 19th century progressed, men increasingly traveled to their place of work, the factory, shop, or office. Wives, daughters, and sisters were left at home all day to oversee the home. Cool. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is highlight some information. All right. So men are traveling to their place of work, and wives, daughters, and sisters are staying at home all day. Okay. So that's going to be a change in gender roles for sure. The two sexes now inhabited what Victorians thought of as separate spheres, only coming together at breakfast and again at dinner. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and pause there because I'm going to let y'all do the rest of the text. So let me, cool, just draw a line there. So y'all know that's when Miss Watson is going to stop working. All right. So what did I get out of this text, right? I've taken a couple notes. I've highlighted information. Now I want to ask myself, what is this text mostly about? Okay. So I'm going to take a note here and say, come on, text box, you can do it. Okay, perfect. This text is about how gender roles became more defined in the Victorian period. Okay, I'm going to write that up front so I know when I look back what paragraph 1 is mostly about. Cool. And let me do this so I can see it just a teensy bit better. Nothing like fighting with Nearpod, am I right? Okay. Cool. All right, so I know this is about how gender roles are more defined in the Victorian period, right? How do I know that? Well, I've highlighted some text evidence here, okay? Men are traveling to work, wives and daughters and sisters were left at home all day. Also, it tells me in this first sentence, men and women's roles became more sharply defined than at any other time in history. Okay? So we know that's what my first paragraph is mostly about. So now I'm going to ask the question for step 3 and ask, why did the author write this text, right? What is the author trying to tell me? Well, I have to look at this in the lens, right, of the magician's nephew, okay? So why do I think the author wrote this little nonfiction text? Okay, so I'm going to say the author wrote this text to, I'm going to say, give us an idea of the gender roles at the time in which Diggory and Polly were living. Okay. Yeah, the author definitely wants to tell us about gender roles during the Victorian era, but I think more importantly, right, the author wants to tell us how were gender roles in the time that Polly and Diggory were living. Okay? So I've read my text, I've highlighted important information, I've taken notes, I asked what the main idea of this text was, I jotted down, this text is about gender roles becoming more defined in the Victorian period. I asked myself, why did the author write this text? And I know the author wrote this text to maybe give us more of an idea of the gender roles at the time in which Diggory and Polly were living so we can understand the text better. All right, I'm going to have y'all go ahead and on the next slide, you're going to do the same thing with your class, but in paragraph 2, okay? After this period at dinner. So you're going to read the last half of the text with your class. You're going to take notes and highlight important information. You're going to jot what this text is mainly about and then why you think the author wrote it. Okay? So don't worry, I'm going to have you do that with your class. So hopefully you can kind of model the notes your teacher is taking. And teachers, if you're kind of confused about how to do that, if you look at this little T right here, or it'll show up as an S if you're doing teacher view, you can change it right here to student view, and then that'll let you draw it like you are a student, okay? So that might be a little bit easier for students to model your notes. When you're done, you've got an exit ticket in Google Classroom. Your exit ticket is maybe going to be a little bit longer than normal because I really want y'all to practice answering questions about nonfiction text. Okay, remember these are just the foundational skills we need to jot notes about nonfiction text, and we'll work harder in the upcoming months to circle in on things to focus on, like making inferences, text structure, important vocabulary, things like that in nonfiction text, okay? But this is just to get y'all started. Go ahead and get started on your draw it, and then go to your exit ticket. Have a wonderful day, scholars. Thanks for working hard.